Here we go, guys. Yes. I'd like to open the City Council meeting, April 6, 2023, 501 Main Street at 5:30 PM. Can we stand for the Pledge of Allegiance? I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Roll call.
Crenshaw,
Here.
Alteid,
Here.
Garcia,
Here.
Altmans,
Here.
Hellenthal,
Here.
Andrews,
Here.
Tillman,
Here.
Bryant,
Here.
Greenwald,
Here.
all present.
Item number 4, Mayor's Correspondence. Friday, April 7th, 2023, we have an adult Easter egg hunt at Rascal's Pub and Grub starting at 4 p.m. And the Southeastern Community College students will be presenting a play, The Play That Goes Wrong, at 7 p.m. at the Grand Theater. Saturday, April 8th, 2023, there is an Easter breakfast at the American Legion. It starts at 8 a.m. and runs till noon, and it is a free will offering. Proceeds go to Reese Across America. Item number 2 on there is Crossview Keokuk Church will be having this annual Easter egg hunt at 10 o'clock at 1807 High Street. Item number 3, if you missed the performance of The Play That's Gone Wrong by the Southeastern Community College on Friday night, they will be doing it on Saturday night at 7 o'clock p.m. at the Grand Theater. And Man Country will be celebrating its 50th birthday with a bash at L Train's Bar on 11th and Main with guest performer Rodney Norman. On Sunday, April 9th, take part in many Easter services that are being offered in Keokuk as well as throughout the tri-state area. And as always, eat, drink, and shop local. Put Keokuk first. Be positive, be the good, and be part of the solution to a greater Keokuk. Okay, we're going on to item number 5. And before we get started, if you are wanting to have a citizen's request, if you have something you need to speak with, come to the pulpit. Please talk into the microphone and try to take less than 5 minutes if you can so it doesn't go on forever. Also, if you have something that you'd like to talk to us about and the item is on the agenda, if you wait till we get to that item, then it won't be a repeat and questions can be filtered at that time. Again, if you come to up to the podium tonight, please speak into the microphone. We've had a lot of people saying that are watching that they can't hear. So as of right now, it's citizens' request. Do we have anybody?
Well, good afternoon. I'm Kirk Savage. I'm sure you know me by now. And I'm quite disappointed in the city council and the employees that you have representing the city of Keokuk. So recently, back in December, I purchased 1,700 and some block of Main Street, which is the whole Chinese restaurant, which is a total disaster. I received a letter from Casey Barnes with basically a threat notice that stated that I had until Wednesday of this week to clean that premises up, or there'd be a $750 citation and $100 a day. I sent 2 phone messages to her. Neither one of them was returned to me. I contacted the old owner, and he was wanting the material that was laying up there by that building. I informed him of the letter that I'd received and that the stuff had to be cleaned up immediately, and I would take control of that situation. He, which is no longer the owner of that property, called Casey. She immediately took a phone call from him, told him that she would work with him and let him remove that material from that property. I was so mad at this. I get this letter from the city telling me that I'm going to pay a $750 fine. I take 2 attempts to call her. She doesn't return any calls to me. I have to call Pam, discuss it with Pam. Pam in turn tells Casey to call me, which she finally does call me. She had no right to contact the old owner of that property. In fact, I told her that night she should probably go home and consider resigning from the city of Keokuk and terminate her job. She informed me that she has hundreds of people in Keokuk that's in violation of rules that was trying to be enforced onto me. If there's hundreds of people that have these violations on them in this town, which you drive around this town and you can see these violations in this town, someone's not doing their job. They're not doing their job at all. The old owner said to me, Keokuk won't bother you if you have no money. But if you've got money, they'll make enforcements on you. I cleaned up that problem. I don't have a problem with cleaning up that problem. He still continues to want product out of that building, which I've stopped that action. I will get a demolition permit and I will remove that. We just got the electricity removed. I've complied with the city to have sewer disconnected with a bonded plumber. I've also had the water disconnected with a bonded plumber. We cut the street because the city couldn't find, well, they did find somebody else's water shut off, which I paid to have that dug up. It's so disappointing with the way the city is operated. I hold some of that junk up 18th Street. I don't come in town a whole lot. 18th Street, I can't believe it. It's no wonder people complain about the way the city is operating. You've bought a scarifier. You bought a scarifier, maybe not many of you on the board know what that is, but it's a planer. You can plane these streets. The amount of labor and hours that the city spent patching 18th Street is a complete mess. It's a lack of management on the street department. For people to be put up there with shovels, hauling asphalt out of the back of a truck, all you're looking at workman's comp claims. And if you're gonna scarifier or plane these streets, you better get a flow boy and a roller. But the city could do better besides shoveling asphalt out of the back of a truck into these potholes that some days they do it when there's water in them. They don't have a compressor to blow that moisture out. And it ain't just 18th. 18th's a prime example of a disaster, but it's that way on other streets too. One of my employees has called Casey Barnes. I'm seriously, she needs to be let go. One of my employees called Casey Barnes and left 4 messages. Of course, Pam Bramhall explained to me about how your telephone system down here is messed up, about the messages don't come in order, that they're put behind other messages, and it's kind of confusing as to when the message comes in. It's hard to understand the whole explanation of how your system does work. The employee has called 4 times to Casey Barnes about a full-size mattress on 17th and Palin, blocking 1 lane. Casey Barnes' answer, I'll call Jeff Herr to remove it. Jeff Herr work for the city? Anybody know if Jeff Herr works for the city? Nobody knows? He does not, does he? He's an outside contractor. Why would Casey Barnes say she's going to call Jeff Herr to pick up a mattress on 17th and Palin after 4 phone calls have been left? Why wouldn't we have one of those recycling flatbed trucks that's picking up recycling products notice that mattress? Why wouldn't somebody working for the city notice that mattress? It's, we talk about stop signs that are in maybe obstructed view because of tree limbs. I know you talked about this software program to where maybe that'll help people notify the city of issues. Don't rely on something that you can't get the employees to follow up on. If we can't do voicemail messages, if we can't get that communication going, if we have to call Jeff Herr to remove stuff out of the city street, if we've got a planer, a scar fire, and we can't straighten up these streets any better than what they look like now, I don't know if there's anybody in this city council should even still be here. It's really a shame. There's a lot of you that know better, but it just continues on. That's all I've got today. I appreciate the time.
Thank you. Do I have anybody else that wants to do citizens' request? Okay, we'll move on to consent. Oh. No, oh yeah, Dorothy, come on up.
Dorothy Cackley, 620 J Street. On March the 16th, I appeared and asked questions regarding the SID Center. It was determined at that time that you had an income of $4,800 per year, expenses of $92,000 per year approximately. And I asked for an itemized amount of monies that had been spent on the SID Center. Mr. O'Donnell sent me that list, and I was wondering if any of you were curious enough to ask him for that list. I see one nod.
I've seen it before.
Okay. For those of you that may not be in the know and for the knowledge of the general public, the total that I was given was $4,158,045.61. Please keep that in mind as you proceed forward, it appears, with the 600 block of Main Street. Thank you.
Thank you, Dorothy. Anyone else? Okay, we'll move on to item number 6, consent agenda. Minutes of the Public Safety Committee meeting on March 9th, 2023. Minutes of the regular city council meeting and council workshop of March 16th, 2023. Minutes of the council budget workshop meeting of March 18th, 2023. Minutes of the special council meeting of March 30th, 2023. Resolution approving a liquor license for the Columbian Room of Keokuk temporary premises transfer from the Keokuk Catholic School Showboat Saturday, effective Saturday, April 22nd through the 23rd, 2023. Class C retail alcohol license pending DRAM. Resolution approving a liquor license for the Cellar, 29 South 2nd Street, effective April 22nd, 2023. Class C retail alcohol license with Sunday sales pending DRAM. Approving a special event permit for the Ram Park Pavilion Commission requesting BYOB for the pavilion-sponsored Summers 2023 concerts. Approving sidewalk display permits for 2023 through 2024 Keokuk Convention and Tourism, Eklund Motors, Simply Honed Boutiques and Antiques, Angelini's Pizza, Rascals Pub and Grub, Gate City Seed Company, Cahill Pribble Jewelry, the Athletic Center, and Family Discount Furniture. Motion to pay the bills and transfers listed in registrar's number 5331 through 5333. I need a motion to approve the agenda, including the consent agenda.
So move.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Item number 7, A, now is the time and place for a public hearing on the proposed fiscal year 2023-2024 property tax levy. A public hearing notice was published in the Daily Gate City on Thursday, March 23rd, 2023. I am opening the public hearing at 5:45 PM.
As required by the state of Iowa, we're to hold a public hearing on the proposed levies for the following areas: regular general, public transit, liability and property insurance, emergency levy, fire and police retirement, FICA and IPERS, and other employee benefits. The max levy for these areas for fiscal year 23-24 is $16 and .27620 per $1,000 of assessed value. With receipts of $5,105,692. The levy rate for these areas increased by 0.19%, but revenues decreased by 4.6%. This is a result of the decrease in the residential rollback as the universal application of the business tax credit. These changes reduce what can be levied through the general fund levies while increasing the employee benefits levies to meet the amount necessary. The combined levy, including debt service, has a total increase of 21.18% due to the increase in general obligation debt that used to be paid through sewer revenues.
Do we have any further discussion?
How does this change with the new assessments on properties in Iowa?
The current assessments or the ones that,
The new ones?
the new ones, those we won't have that effect until the next budget year.
Yeah, I'm just, for the public knowledge, we pay a year in
Right.
behind.
Yeah, you're a year behind. So the increased assessments due to the housing boom in 2021, that will not go into us to be able to calculate taxes until the next fiscal year. Statewide, I've been told that the increase is averaging 25%, which means that there will probably be a drastic reduction in the residential rollback. Some projections bringing it from the current amount to 49% or less.
Any further discussion? City Clerk, any written comments or objections, have they been received? There being no further comments or objections on this matter, I will close the public hearing at 5:47 PM. Consider resolution approving maximum property tax dollars for fiscal year 2023 through 2024. I need a motion to approve.
So moved?
Second.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Item number 8, motion to approve the second reading of an ordinance amending Code Section 9.08.010 Iowa Code, adopted by reference to facilitate the enforcement of traffic laws in the city of Keokuk.
So moved?
Second.
Roll call.
Crenshaw,
Aye.
Alteid, Garcia,
Aye.
Altmans,
Aye.
Hillenthal,
Aye.
Andrews,
Aye.
Tillman,
Aye.
Bryant,
Aye.
Greenwald,
Aye.
Do I have a motion to waive the third reading of this ordinance?
So move. Second.
I'll need a roll call.
Alteid, Garcia,
No.
Altmans,
Aye.
Hillenthal,
Aye.
Andrews,
Aye.
Tillman,
Aye.
Bryant,
Aye.
Greenwald,
Aye.
Crenshaw. 8 yes, 1 no.
So I need a motion to adopt and give final approval of this ordinance.
So moved? Second?
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Item number 9, consider resolution awarding contracts for the Keokuk Municipal Bridge Platform Replacement. I need a motion to approve.
So move.
Discussion?
So what we're doing here with these repairs is, these are requirements from the Federal Railroad Administration for safety issues out on the bridge. We have to make these to be in compliance. They are manned platforms out there. Actually, this was issued before my time with the city, and the bids were kind of taken in before that. We're just now getting them before council for approval. If you need a further explanation, I would have to defer to Bob Weiss, but that's the gist of what these repairs are for.
What budget are we taking it out of?
This
Which
item
department?
this item was budgeted for under the railroad bridge.
In the bridge department?
Yeah.
Okay. Is
We
it
had
coming out?
we had a budget for 30,000, and I think the bid is 26 something, 26, 27.
Yeah, it's budgeted for in the bridge department in this budget cycle.
I have a couple of questions. The first one, it says that that platform was deemed necessary after inspection. Were there any other items brought to light regarding repairs to the bridge?
So from my knowledge, yes, there is a list of items that need, but they're in accordance to the safety issues with the bridge. And as I said, I came on after this inspection was performed and kind of in the middle of this, so I don't have a whole lot of information. Cole or Bob would have more specifics on that.
Okay, will those at some point in time before they're to be voted on be brought to the public?
Yes, if they are such where we have to do a competitive quote or a public bid, then those are brought forward to the city council for approval.
Okay, and at this time, I would like to make a request of the profit loss statements for fiscal years 2020, 2021, 2022, and when it's available, 2023. Thank you.
Thank you, Dorothy. Any more discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Item number 10, consider resolution setting a public hearing on the fiscal year 2023 to 2024 annual budget. Do I have a motion to approve?
So moved.
Second.
The preliminary fiscal year 2023-2024 budget is ready. Prior to adoption, the city is required to hold a public hearing. Staff recommends April the 20th, 2023 at 5:30 p.m.
Any more discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Item number 11, consider resolution authorizing contract to purchase energy management software. Do I have a motion to approve?
So moved.
Second.
Any discussion?
So this software we're looking at purchasing, we will be able to monitor all of our facilities. The initial price lets us do up to 20 facilities. Right now, we have a list of 10 we're going to be implementing this in if you allow us to purchase it. The purpose of this, so to my understanding right now, the way we roll is we get our utility bills, we pay our utility bills. There's not a whole lot of monitoring unless we physically call the utility companies and have them send reports to us. This software will allow us to do on-demand monitoring up to every 15 minutes. During the last calendar year, the city expenditure for electricity was a little over $795,000 for all of our facilities. Gas was a little over $170,000. Looking at the trends for this year, looks like electricity is going to be bumped up closer to 900,000 to $1 million. Gas, we're probably looking over $200,000 because of the rate hikes and the fees that they're able to pass on now. What we're looking at first year savings, and this is, I've done 2 training sessions with them. First year savings we're looking at probably around the 10,000, and I just ran this for the electricity, probably around $10,000 for electric. Altogether for electric, after we implement this in a 3 to 5 year plan, we can be upwards from 3 to 10% savings. So estimation around $70,000 a year savings for electric. Gas is going to be about the same percentages. So one-time setup fees, $11,564, and then the yearly fee for this is $5,354. And so that's kind of what we're looking at.
Is this just for gas and electric? Do you have water as well?
It will do all of our utilities. So yes, it will do water as well. We don't pay for water, but it still will monitor the usage.
Well, it's
Um,
good though, because if you have a leak or something,
If we have a leak,
a
it
burst
will,
pipe, something happens.
right. If we have any kind of spike in any of our utilities, we get alerted right away. As opposed to normally, if you have especially if it's after hours water leak or anything, you're usually up a creek with how to paddle before you can get to it. So
Is this budgeted for?
it is not. The monies for this will be divided between all departments because it incorporates all departments. So you're looking at, for the yearly fee, you're looking at a little under $400 per department.
I'd like to see it found in all of those departments' budgets.
Say that again?
I'd like to see it found within those departments' budgets and not added to.
Okay.
If there's a problem with the software, do they have maintenance fees or is it
This-
included in the contract?
It is included in the contract.
Okay, so there's no additional
And
fees.
they also upload all the data for us. So they get
Okay.
so we give them permission, they get in direct contact with all the utility companies. Basically, they're getting that data streamed to them real time. So
Okay.
Brian, can you verify for us the estimated first-year savings? I think you said 10,000, but the sheet in front of us says 70,000.
I think the miscommunication there was the percentages. So if you're looking at a 1% savings for the first year for electric, that would be around 10,000. The 10% savings would be the 70,000.
All those in favor say aye.
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 All opposed? Item number 12, consider resolution approving increasing salary for accounting clerk. Do I have a motion to approve?
So move.
Second.
Any discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Hang on, sorry.
Aye.
Sorry, I thought-
Aye.
Whoop. Sorry, I thought you were gonna.
Pardon me?
In the packet, it looks like they are over budget. They are not. This was found within the budget, which I think is admirable. An employee has taken on several additional tasks and it has not had a raise in several years. I do encourage other department heads to do the same for employees that are going above and beyond, to find that in your budget and cut anything that's unnecessary to make sure that your people are taken care of. So I just wanted to make sure that that is not an over budget. That is included in the budget.
Any further discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Item number 13, consider resolution awarding contract for the public safety building roof replacement. Do I have a motion to approve?
So move.
Second.
It was, the roof bid was brought to the Public Works Department for the specific reason of when it went out, when they solicited for bids, it came in over $100,000. That is the state threshold where we have to go to public bid and advertisement. We put together a scope of work and sent out the request for bids, did our minimum 13-day advertising, then received those bids with the minimum coming in at $199,500. Specifics, if you'd like to speak with Chief Baum, he knows more about the roof.
Are we, what kind of roof are we putting on it?
The 60 mil membrane, white. So it would be a complete tear off of the patchwork membrane that's already on there, only replacement of the sheeting where needed.
That's what I was gonna ask about the sheeting and stuff.
So it
If
will be,
they- if
it will
they
be
get-
assessed it will be assessed after the tear off.
Okay.
I'm really struggling with this one. I know that the public safety building needs a roof, but they really need a new building. So I don't know that it's in our best interest to do a $200,000 roof and in a couple years need a new building.
I was gonna ask as well, it kind of plays into that. I mean, what the long-term goal is to get a brand new building. So if we were to do this, to put a new roof on it, what does that mean down the road? Are we just gonna push off getting a new building, for like another 30 years? Or what's the plan overall?
Well, that was my question. I think that I think we're supposed to break ground on a new
Mhm.
building this year, according to our 5-year plan that, for other reasons, we didn't get to that. But that's my question. And did that prompt any discussion amongst the council as far as weighing a new building versus $200,000 on an old building? Which I just pointed out another problem to the mayor and Cole with the building that we're exploring could present some future issues as well. So I mean, it's up to you guys what you want to do and how you want to explore that, but I think that's something that needs to be discussed.
I completely agree. I'm not a fan of doing a $200,000 Band-Aid. I toured your building and I don't think that this is gonna make it a lot better, to be honest.
Is it able to be patched though? Because I do know that there are some serious concerns there with leaking and things of that nature. So can it be patched?
We addressed the most recent issue, so right now it's not leaking, but I mean, obviously, according to the quotes, it's in
It's in bad
disrepair,
shape.
and there will certainly be future repairs if it's not replaced, but that's where, we need to decide, or you guys need to decide what you want to do as far as a new building versus a new roof, and what that means 10 years down the road, or what you want to look at doing.
What's it got on it for roof now? Is it APDM membrane? Does it have gravel on it?
I believe it's EPDM, but it's got a lot of tar on top of it and a lot of patchwork.
Which some of that.
And I agree with everybody because when I first got on the council, we started really pushing for it because of the boiler system in it, the HVAC as a total. Then we got the female personnel. We had to make modifications there and it's been ongoing. And I agree with the rest of the council on that. I would kind of like to see us get an estimate to have it tarred.
To have
One
it
into the other,
tarred?
just tarred over the top right now, gravel, whatever's there, tar it all in, buy us 5 to 7 years. I was gonna push more for this building again, but most of the citizens have been pushing for streets and screaming about streets. So we're bonding 5 million there. I'd like to see part of it go into this building, but we can't afford all of it right now. So I would like to see that investigated, see if we can't just hot tar the whole thing real quick, buy us another 5 to 7 years without a lot of expense if we can do it.
With a plan on what a building would cost and what that looks like, because I don't want to see it long-term. I think that needs to be a short-term goal. We have a lot of upcoming things even this year. Like John said, with even just, female officers and things of that nature. It's not equipped. The building is not equipped for our public safety officers.
That would be my
If
vote.
we were to vote tonight to go to a new building, how long would you got any kind of estimate, how long it would take us to authorize the bonds and get the contract and get it built and get into it? Do you have any kind of time frame that would take?
For bonding issues, I would defer to Cole.
Yeah, I would think that, I believe we had a study done how many years ago on what would be necessary. But
Last I recall, you're talking about the public safety building would be around $6 million.
I think
it was
that,
around 8.
yeah,
I
it's
heard
about
eight.
$6 million, but I think that number has
But-
significantly increased.
Yeah, that was 3 or 4 years ago, and inflation's went through the roof.
So if we start planning now, I would say, depending on how the bonding issue would go, you talking 3 years minimum?
That's to get it built or to get it approved?
No, to get it, probably to get it built. I mean, we'd have to engage a qualified architect that would, that has experience in public safety buildings.
Right.
And then from there, develop a cost estimate that could then be presented to the public as to, why is it needed, what's needed. And my advice would be, given current situations, that, the building be only what is needed, and then have some alternates for things that are extra, that if we end up with a low enough bid, we can throw them in. And then we'd have to go through the referendum. Typically, what I've seen is that referendums for new buildings generally fail on the first try. And then you have to wait another 3 months, because the state of Iowa only allows us to do it at 4 different times during the year. So you'd have to wait another 3 months, but at the same time, you'd have to rework and address some of the issues that perhaps people were looking at as to why they voted no.
Did the state of Iowa pass the law that we have to have 10% in cash for any building improvements?
None of the property tax bills has passed, but yes, that is one of the proposals, is that if we were to go out for a general obligation bond for a building like this, there's a proposal as part of the property tax bills that we have to have 10% in cash ready to go before we can go for the bonding.
I'd like to see us, and I think it's kind of already been brought up, I'd like to see us look more towards getting a new building in motion, and just what we have to do. Obviously, if it's a rubber roof or whatever it is, we need to keep it to where it's still functional. And I'm not a big Band-Aid fan, but if we're not going to keep the building long-term, we definitely don't want to spend a lot of money, because that to me is not really being real good with our money. That's just being wasteful with money we shouldn't be spending. So I'd rather us do as minimal as we can with it still, obviously doing it correctly when we do a repair. Don't go up there and just throw caulk from the hardware store, but do it correctly, but don't do a complete roof restructure, nothing like that. Address the problem areas, and maybe even get to where we would get up on a quarterly basis and kind of inspect the roof, get a couple of guys to walk around, whether you would actually have just public works guys do it, actually maybe get a roofing contractor with whoever's doing our repairs, put that in with them and say, hey, would like you to just come verify that and look and see if you see any problems coming up. If we get a lot of rain, we're going to have more repairs. If we don't get a lot of rain, it might last longer, but that way we can put our efforts and our max money into actually replacing the building and getting us a new building in works.
Is there any part of the,
That building was built in 1957. There's a 4-foot tunnel underneath of it that when we bought the last truck, we was concerned about if that floor would handle the weight of the truck. We had to move the header up because the truck could not get in the present building. We're at least 10 years. We should have had a new building 10 years ago. I remember that when I first come on the council, they took me through there, and over in the fireman's, but you could see outside through the brick. So we're behind. We can patch it if you want, and we can keep patching, but it just, someday we're going to have to do it. So.
is there any part of the building that's salvageable that you could build on? I mean, we own part of that property on one side. We own property on both sides, just not on that one corner, right? Because there's houses there. But is there any part of the building that's salvageable?
I mean, I don't want to speak for the fire side. On the police side, obviously that new part is a newer addition. But I think that may cause problems if you're trying to patch a couple buildings together. It may cause some problems in the future.
Okay.
I think one of the issues too with trying to save part of that building is that that would require demolishing the rest of the building and they need a place to still operate out of while the building is going on.
Does a public safety building have to be located any certain place in the community? I mean, does it have to be centrally located or anything like that?
No, not that I'm aware of. And with our response times in Keokuk and being a smaller community, I don't think that's going to be a big issue.
Okay, thank you. Any further discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Would you repeat the
All
motion?
opposed?
The motion is to accept the bid and move forward with patching the roof.
No, to fix the roof.
No, wait a minute.
Aye.
No, to fix it.
Aye.
No,
The bid,
right. That is the motion was to accept the bid and put the new roof on.
Just-
So if you vote aye, you're voting to spend $199,500. If you vote no, you're voting not to spend that.
okay, are we ready? All those in favor say aye.
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 All opposed?
No.
Okay.
Okay, motion fails.
So what are we gonna do with the leak?
Well,
The leak's already been addressed and it's fixed right now, as of right now.
and going forward, we can get some estimates on possibly
tar.
tarring it,
Okay.
maybe.
Retarring,
and
yeah.
See if there's something we can do in the meantime.
Okay, item number 14, consider resolution appointing paying agent, note registrar, and transfers agent, approving the paying agent and note registrar and transfer agent agreement, and authorizing the execution of the agreement. Do I have a motion to approve?
So moved.
Second.
Any discussion? Okay, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Item number 15, consider resolution approving and authorizing a form of loan agreement and authorizing and providing for the issuance and levying a tax to pay the notes, approval of the tax exemption certificate, and continuing disclosure certificate. Do I have a motion to approve?
So move.
Second.
Any discussion? All those in favor say aye.
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 All opposed? Item number 17, consider resolution approving a letter of support for Pivotal Housing Partners. Do I have a motion to?
No, you skipped over 6.
Oh, I'm sorry, I skipped 16. Sorry about that, guys. Number 16, consider resolution authorizing a loan in the amount of $12,500 for the City of Keokuk revolving loan fund to Rose Rehab and Performance. Do I have a motion to approve?
Second.
Any discussion?
Rice Rose of Keokuk has applied to the Keokuk revolving loan fund for funds to assist in opening a physical therapy and rehabilitation clinic in Keokuk. There'll be one employee, which is Mr. Rhodes himself, a $1,000 a month lease. The startup costs are for some renovation and equipment purchases. He plans to open August 1st. Total project cost is $33,424. And sources for the project is the primary lender of $13,424, revolving loan fund of $12,500, and applicant equity of $7,500.
You can come up, Dorothy.
What is the current balance in the revolving loan fund?
Do you have that, Mike? Estimate? So approximately 140,000.
Okay, that just threw me for another loop. I find then that the city is not only in the real estate business, but we're in the loan business. I do see that there are terms of 4% interest for 7 years. It's due within 7 years. Is that correct?
Right. It's a 4% interest with a 7-year term.
Okay. I know Mr. Bryant should be familiar with this, and I think some of you have been involved within extensions of, but back in 2010, a gentleman by the name of Paul Ruse came to the council and wanted money. The council, under the guise, direction of Mr. Marion at the mayor helm, thought that the city needed to help out to turn the economic situation around for the city of Keokuk. I did some research this afternoon. Did we not learn a lesson from that experience? We loaned the money to the Keokuk Economic Development Corporation. They in turn handed it off to Mr. Roos. Has any of that ever been repaid? Why don't we go after the Keokuk Economic Development Group if they took out the loan and get some of it back?
Dorothy, do you want me to explain to you how the RLF works?
I'm sorry.
Yeah, the revolving loan fund is not tied to the monies that were loaned to Mr. Ruse.
I
That
can,
was,
I can read it right off the page.
go ahead.
Okay, so the Keokuk RLF was created by the city allocating, and I don't know what year this was, Mr. Norris, would you, I think 2007. So in 2007, the city allocating $100,000 with a USDA rural development matching grant of $99,000. Funds are used in conjunction with local lenders to serve as gap financing for proposals, and lender serves as the primary source of funding. As loan payments are made and monies are repaid to the pool, the fund revolves back out to other candidates for the program. Some of our people that have used the revolving loan fund, so this has nothing to do with our budget. It's a complete separate entity. And so this revolving loan fund has already rotated 100%. And so we have, for instance, I know Keokuk Steel Castings has gotten an RLF for gap financing. So has Freeze Dried USA, as well as this one that's proposed. But this has nothing to do with normal budgets or what the same kind of loan that was given to Amjet.
Okay. The article that I'm referencing, the final line of it was, this $200,000 comes after the city already investing $150,000.
So that has nothing to do, that's a whole completely different deal than what this revolving loan fund is. Completely different pocket of money, completely, it's not even close to the same kind of thing.
So if I'm understanding you correctly, that it's all under his guys over here. If the city is not involved, why doesn't this guy go straight to him to get his loan?
No, the city has a committee, and that committee reviewed the financials and the business plan and approved, made a recommendation that the city council approve this loan.
So the bankers actually come to us and say, hey, I have this potential project and we would like to have gap financing. Gap financing is the aspect is that, for instance, you might have to buy $100,000 in equipment, but a bank can only collateralize that to a point of what 70% of that, for instance. So then they get $70,000 from the bank, but then the RLF fund can provide that gap financing of $30,000 because the bank has certain rules that they have to follow.
They're not allowed to fund 100% of a project.
Okay.
Please, Mr. Norris.
Do you want to come?
Yeah, come to the, can you come to the mic, please?
Can't hear you.
Hi, my name is Mike Norris. I'm with the Southeast Iowa Regional Planning Commission. We serve Lee, Des Moines, Henry, and Loiza counties in Iowa, and we're one of 17 councils of governments in Iowa. And we manage 7 revolving loan fund pools. Keokuk is one of them. And the thing I wanted to bring up was that we do have security on this loan. I think in the past, there has been maybe some unsecured loans or lightly secured loans. We do cause the loans to be enforced if there's non-payment. And so our security on this loan is going to be a general UCC filing with the Secretary of State and then personal guarantees from the borrowers. The borrowers really have fantastic resumes, professional jobs, very stable. And we think they're a great addition to the city business climate. And ma'am, really of all the loans I've seen in some time, this is one of those that I'm not real concerned about on the front. And so we feel really good about this, and we hope the city council considers it.
I have a question. Do the borrowers make monthly payments or is it paid in full after the 7-year term?
Monthly.
So sometimes we do it in different ways. Sometimes we might amortize for a longer period of time and balloon it and then either look for a payoff or a renewal. In this case, there will be monthly payments for the full 7-year term.
Okay, thank
Yep.
you.
So can I inquire as to if you're responsible for helping to get the money back from the borrower?
In this, with the Keokuk RLF, if we do have a loan default, we would cause the enforcement to happen.
Why haven't you been approached to do that with Mr. Roos?
Because he wasn't involved with that one, Dorothy, because
That
it came
one
from a different source of money.
Didn't go through.
It did not go through the RLF.
Yeah.
That loan was made from city general fund money, I believe, or tax increment financing or something. But it did not go through the RLF. Mr. Norris and Southeast Iowa Regional Planning had nothing to do with that loan.
Thank you.
Okay.
Thank you.
Any more discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Item number 17, consider resolution approving a letter of support for Pivotal Housing Partners. Do I have a motion to approve?
So moved.
Second.
Discussion.
Pivotal Housing Partners, previously Miller Valentine Group, has requested a letter of support for housing tax credits to construct a 42-unit affordable housing complex. Pivotal will be applying for low-income housing tax credits and home funds through Iowa Finance Authority. These housing funds developed often attract young professionals, working families, seniors, or persons with disabilities who are unable to maintain a house but want to live independently. As quality rental property are limited in Keokuk, these units could help individuals and families move out of substandard housing. There is, one letter said 42 housing or units, one had 40, so I'm not exactly 100% sure. So if you'll come to the podium and introduce yourself, and if the council does have questions, they can ask.
My name is Adit Doshi. I represent Pivotal. We have 40 units.
40 units?
Yep.
Okay.
And it's affordable housing, so we provide those rental housing to 30% area median income and 40% area median income and 60% area median income residents.
The letter of support is attached, a letter from Pivotal requesting the request is attached, a sketch of where the unit will be is attached also. So if you have any questions, I can try to answer them, or our guests can.
Would there be income requirements for the housing?
What requirements? Sorry.
Like income requirements, like is it low income?
Right.
Is it market rate?
Yeah, it's all low income.
Okay.
40% and 60% AMI. Yep.
The AMI in the state of Iowa for the state level, or is it just for Keokuk?
I'm sorry?
Is the area medium income, is that at the state level, or is that for just Keokuk area?
I think it's at county level.
County level?
Yep.
Okay. Do you know what those numbers are?
I have the rent numbers if you want. I'm not 100% sure about I do not have the income limit right now in front of me.
Okay, thanks.
Yep.
So is this going to be like for seniors and they can have other family members living with them? Or is it just for family members with kids?
It's for families.
Okay, don't have to be a senior.
Yep, exactly.
All right.
Could you get us that income information later?
Yep,
Okay.
absolutely.
Thank you.
I'll forward it to her.
I can provide that.
That,
for you.
okay, thank you.
Okay, you're welcome.
Any other questions? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Thank you. Item number 18, consider resolution accepting a proposal from Southeast Iowa Regional Planning Commission to assist with developers for the 600 block of the Main Street project. Do I have a motion to approve?
So moved.
Second.
Any discussion?
I am going to let Mr. Norris address the council.
Hi, Mike Norris again. Sarah Hecox, our senior housing staff, is with me, and we've been really involved in Keokuk housing for a while. We're just on the tail of a couple of rehabilitation grants. We have a new pilot rehabilitation grant coming up. And honestly, we've been involved in some way with the 600 block building since about 2017. So this is even before the University of Iowa came down to help reimagine what the 600 block buildings can be. So as time wore on, the timing became right to apply for a grant to try to encourage developers to invest into upper story housing and make that a going concern and add value to it. So about a year ago, we got this money, and since that time, regional planning has just been informally helping the city, just kind of answering phone calls, trying to recruit developers to come down. I'm not sure how many total we've had, but I wrote down a list of 6. And I've been, I think personally, on 4 visits down here trying to attract interest for the development. And so we've helped or assisted the city just lightly, informally, send out 2 RFPs. And we've had some responses to those. Now, there is a $600,000 grant tied to the 600 block, not the 629 building. And the time is getting close where if we reverse the engineer the timelines for the time of construction and bidding and some of the materials that are out, like the time is getting close where we really need someone to come in. And so, I propose to Pam and Cole that, kind of in an emergency basis, we should try to be available. And I've got at least one I think is very serious about this that we've recruited. But I think we need to give, the council and the city the information and the expectation that someone's really going to follow through on the 600 block. And so we came up with a list of 7 different items that we will work with the developer on. And we have contacts with a lot of other people and funding sources as well. So we can kind of bring that knowledge to them under this contract to try to make things as specific and detailed as possible. So hopefully at the end of the RFP process, the time will be ripe to do a development agreement and then actually get work started. So that's what we intend to do and why we've proposed this, because if we don't take these detailed steps, then the timeline may not be long enough to actually use the grant, and it may have to go back. And we'd hate to see that. We want to try to get someone in and invest the money, utilize the grant, add value to the buildings so that there's not, any more deterioration or even the risk of demolition. And I hate to say that because I don't like to see downtown buildings demoed, so.
I think it'd be great. I think that this is the type of project that you guys have done in the past with other communities as well.
Yeah, so there's a couple examples in Burlington I could talk about real quick. One is the old Apollo High School. This is built in the 1920s, and it stopped being a high school in the 70s, went to the community college, stopped being that, was vacant for a long time, went through 3 or 4 different owners. The city was going to spend about, I'm not sure how much it really was going to be, but I would say at least $500,000 to tear it down. We proposed to the council to wait to do an RFP. And so we did attract a developer, and that didn't actually work out, but that led to a better developer, which we have now. And so really the moral of the story is that, the time bought them the opportunity not to spend the money and to have someone to actually take care of the building, and the building is still there. and it can be reinvested in. And then the other one we did was also in Burlington, where another downtown building was going to be torn down, and we worked with the downtown group to get some grants, stabilize the roof, and there hasn't been a developer attracted there yet, but the building is stabilized structurally in with the roof. And so as long as they're stable and water's out and nothing's happening to it, there's always a chance. And these have a lot to offer the communities. There are resources out there with historic tax credits, workforce tax credits, CDBG. And so we really want to help people access those funds and invest in the city.
What is currently holding developers back?
So I would say one item is that there's a lot of activity going on. There's a lot of funds out there. And I think after COVID, there's like an energy release. And so a lot of new projects started. So on the list I made, I would say probably 5 out of those 7 are already doing other projects. And they started those kind of at the time that we needed a developer here. So I would say busyness is one thing. The number 2 is probably the scale of the project. It's not a really small project. It's not a really big project. It's kind of in between. And so when you can add scale, you know, some things get cheaper per unit, as we all know. And so it's a bit of a tweener project. And so people are like, well, could I do, it doesn't come immediately to them. It's not like a 25 or a 30 unit project. So I think the scale is something. And I say the last thing is that a lot of times when you see these projects, people layer incentives. And so they will get one incentive and then layer like a tax credit or 2 on top of that, and then maybe another grant. And then they come in and ask for a tax incentive for the city to kind of cap it all off. And so this one, I would say there's a really great list of incentives, but we just haven't really had the time, the opportunity's been different to get someone in to layer those different incentives. And so, so we've really tried hard informally to recruit, but we want to make sure we allocate and prioritize this time because we get a lot of different calls and I don't want to promise something and then someone else says, hey, I need this more. So that's why we proposed the contract.
So I see a date here, May 12th. So come May 12th, you come to us with proposals according to this. Does that mean you just step out and you're done? Or how invested are you going to be in this to see it clear through after May 12th is my question, I guess.
Well, so we've been invested in the 600 block since 2017. We've done a lot of things just to help. I'm not going anywhere. Sarah's not going anywhere. We're really a phone call away for the mayor, the administrator, Pam, plus Pam's on our housing trust fund board. And so we know we're going to see her, so we can't do her wrong because she'll yell at us and we don't want that. So, but no, I mean, this is what we do. This is really our mission at regional planning is to do things like this. And so this is kind of an acceleration to get these really specific items done that need to get done to get the project moving forward.
So another thing that they've done is the Southeast Iowa Housing Inc. has made sure those 2 houses that came from the Homes for Iowa, actually Mike is the president of Homes for Iowa, but they also facilitated that development. So the 1100 block house on Concert and the, was it 721 9th Street, North 9th Street, something like that?
722 North 9th.
722 North 9th.
1117 Orleans. That wasn't a Homes for Iowa house, but that was just an infill. So
yeah.
I would like to add that generally, many times when we get a grant, there is admin fees that regional planning actually gets to help us out with those grants. This grant did not have any admin fees, so they have put a lot of time in it with asking nothing of the city. They've come up many times, went through it with us, contacted numerous individuals, developers. So they're always just a phone call away for me for anything that I need them for, any questions, just to bounce something off of. So they're a tremendous help for the city.
The only other question would be, where would that $3,500, where would that come out of the budget?
So I have budgeted in my budget, I have $15,000 that goes to payment to other agencies. 90, around 9,800 goes per capita dues for Southeast Iowa Regional Planning to assist in just any community pays those dues. I have a little over 5,000 left. That actually was budgeted in case we had any housing projects that may need a match. So that money is in my budget.
And that's 5,000 this fiscal year, correct?
This is
That's
35.
left. That's what's left in this fiscal year is?
Yes, sir.
Okay.
Mhm.
Dorothy?
Okay, I had a question regarding the council action form page versus the resolution page. Because on the action form page, it says that the work would be done no later than April 28th. On the resolution, it says May 12th, which is correct.
I'm not sure where that actually came from, Dorothy. I just copied and pasted the actual proposal. And let me see if I can find the resolution. My printer was just not behaving when I was trying to print things out.
Resolution says May 12th.
Yeah, I know that it says April 28th. Mike, was there something that you sent me that had the May 12th on there?
I think that was our very first draft, but that was gonna be enough time. So we went back to May 12th so that we could get the May 18th council meeting.
So May 12th is the correct date.
May 12th is the correct date, so I'll X that one out. By his own admission, he's been working on this since 2017 at different phases. What makes you think you can be more successful in 5 weeks than you have been in 6 years?
Answer that. So in 2017, when we started looking at it, it was pre-city acquisition of the buildings. And so it was more of a, okay, if we did acquire these, like what could we do? So it was more of an imaginative thing at that point. And I think really until last year, it really wasn't right for whatever reason to apply for a grant. And so last year we did, the funds were available. And then, you know, for the reasons we just talked about, there's so much activity going on. Contractors are busy. You know, I've seen this in different areas of regional planning where we need bids for different things, and it's one bidder and it's twice as much as you want. And so it's a different environment now. But through the recruiting efforts, I think that we've got one, hopefully two, that will come in. And if I didn't have anything, I wouldn't propose this.
I would like to add, Dorothy, that Sarah, the federal grants that we usually apply for, we cannot do upper story housing with those grants because of the noise pollution. Is that correct?
Yes, what makes it extremely tough to get the federal funds, because you have to do a noise assessment with the highway going through. You usually end up in between or higher than what they would recommend, so.
So the monies that we received did not apply to those funds. So we could actually get those funds without having to worry about a noise assessment to be able to put the upper story housing there.
These funds do not come from HUD, so you do not have all the HUD rules that come with the community development block grants. They're coming from the Treasury.
We just haven't been able to get funds for those buildings before. We have ARPA funds at this point. It was just, they were giving money away and we decided to try to get some.
That's why I asked what I did, Dorothy, because, it sounds like you're getting this pot of gold and here's these buildings. We're practically giving them away with all this money. So that's why I asked why people weren't interested. For me, it sounds like in 5 weeks, either we hit big and we've got developers there, or we're here where we are today.
Okay, just a question. Since there's no HUD money, does that mean that they do not have to be ADA compliant?
They're required to be ADA compliant with any
I'm
building.
sorry.
They're required to be ADA compliant, but they're not subject to income limits.
Right, but then each separate building will have to be equipped with an elevator.
So what we're going to look at is to have some ground floor units in the rear of some of the buildings. So those would be the ADA compliant as far as accessibility.
And each one of the upstairs would have to have 2 points of egress, is that correct?
That is correct. Yes.
Okay. How can that be accomplished on frontage on Main Street?
So actually, one of your points of egress can actually be a window, as long as it's operable. It's just like in a dwelling. If you're upstairs, you only have one way out to come down the stairs, but you can also get out the window. A fireman can, get your lift up there and get you out the window.
Okay.
So that's what's so important about having operable windows, the size that a fireman can get in with their equipment on.
Okay, so if I'm hearing everything correctly, then this will either be a go issue on May 12th or it'll be a dead issue on May 12th, correct?
I
have an
think really what it is that on May 12th is do we have the option of a developer, or do we have to look at other options for the buildings?
Okay, but not saying what that option is.
Well, again, at that point, we need to look at any available options that we may have, and then the council needs to decide which way they want to go.
Thank you.
Thank you, Dorothy. Any more discussion? All those in favor say aye. All opposed? Item number 19, consider resolution to approve seeking bids for asbestos remediation for 619, 623, and 625 Main Street. Do I have a motion to approve?
So moved.
Second.
One bid for asbestos abatement for 619, 23, and 25 was received in February. The bid was significantly higher than expected. Rebidding will be necessary, but the type of work being done on the bill, regardless of the type of work being done on the building, whether it's demo, rehab, and of course that could change the scope of the bid document. So I really do not want to actually have a specific date at this moment. I just want the option to be able to send the RFP or the quotes out for bids when we finally get ready to actually decide what we're going to do.
Well, if we have a potential developer in May, would we need to do this?
We're
Or
going
would
to need to do it regardless. If you have, if you have a building, a commercial building, and you're rehabbing it or you're demolishing it, you're required to do the asbestos abatement.
So the developer won't do this?
They can, it depends on what the council has. We are going to try to apply with the,
Iowa DNR.
there you go, DNR, for a grant. It's not that much. And then I think the ARPA funds are going to be used. So it's not, it's going to be part of that funding source.
The developer would have the choice between absorbing it into his bid or using the incentives that we have for it through ARPA to pay for it.
And there are some out there that do have a license to abate the asbestos, so they could do that themselves, and that would save a lot of money.
I don't think there'd be any problem with getting new bids, but I'd like to see us hold off on doing anything, at least till after we get the proposals on the 23rd. Like you said, at least, because ideally, the new developer, that we would let them just buy the building and they just do it all.
Correct.
But we need to at least be prepared moving forward, because as stated, we're 4 or 5 weeks away. It may take a couple of weeks to get them in and actually get that done. Come after May 23rd, whatever we find out, we may have to move forward on that. So I'd be in favor of at least getting new bids, but not actually acting on any of them until after we hear from Southeast Iowa deal.
I will not even send them out until we get a little closer, just to find out what we're going to actually do, because that's going to change, excuse me, change the scope of the bid if we're going to demolish them or rehab them.
Pam, says you got one bid for the asbestos removal on all three. Is there a report breaking down how much is in each one, as far as, is one really bad and the other one not as bad, or is there any breakdown as far as?
We have a breakdown. We had the assessment done. Those were sent to several individuals to remediate the asbestos. So they had the details of the breakdown. A lot of it was in the roofs. I've not been up on 623 or 625, so I don't know what the condition of those are. But 619, the flashing's all down. There's too much on it, so it's going to have to be removed. There's too much weight there.
625 had a fire in it, correct?
That did, but it did not go into it. That
Didn't
just
go into the roof, and
it did not.
jeopardize
No,
the
it did not.
structure.
There was just some damage on a couple of the floor joists, a little bit on the staircase going to the 3rd floor, and a little bit on, there are a couple joists that'll need to be replaced or sistered.
Okay.
Any more discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Item number 20, consider resolution approving change order for the Rand Park Pond restoration. Do I have a motion to approve?
So moved.
Second.
All right, first of all, on your council action forms, there was a typo. The quantities on there should be in square yards, not in square feet. And I believe that was regurgitated on the resolution.
I got some question. When this $50,000, how much clay, or what's the depth of clay you're going to use to make your steel?
So the minimum depth that we'll be using would be the 8 inches.
You're not going to go any thicker than 8 inches? What this 50,000? What this 50,000 is for?
Okay, so the $50,000, I'm going to get into all that.
Oh, I'm sorry.
I mean, I'm trying to get this all explained because I know there's a lot of questions.
Go ahead, and then I'll ask questions later.
So that with the initial bid, we have the sediment that we already removed. We had the 8 inches of existing 8 inches of existing clay removed. Underneath that existing clay, we then found another layer of silt. And while tracking around in the bottom of a pond, we noticed water pumping up through the bottom of the pond, which clay works both ways. If your liner's holding in water on top, it should also, it shouldn't be pumping up to the bottom. So the contractor, we dug it, he started excavating on the, I'm going to say northerly end. We then found a layer of gravel, which is definitely not good for the bottom of a pond. Then we did some other potholing around the pond. We found additional gravel. We found this gravel layer out in the middle of the pond. We found it on the west end of the pond. So then it was determined there was approximately a foot of gravel underneath what the current bottom of the pond was. Based on that, it is determined that once we got into this layer of gravel, this all has to be removed. the $50,000 is for the additional removal of approximately 2,000 square yards of material, which included the extra layer of sediment and the layer of rock that we found. In addition to that, we're proposing, so in the bottom, after we got the rock cleaned out, there's approximately, we've dug down 3 feet. There's still 3 feet of good clay in the bottom of this pond and probably more. So what we're proposing to do right now is to take that from the bottom and we'll spread it up the sides. That's where I get you your minimum of 8 inches in hopes to alleviate having to bring in an additional 8 inches of clay to line the pond.
So the max would be 1.5 feet is,
I'm assuming more than that. I had them stop digging at 3 feet in the bottom because that's, I mean, a record, I mean, depending on who you ask, and John knows about all this too, but 8 to 10 inches on the bottom of that really good clay is plenty thick for the liner.
okay. So, because, you know, I was hearing 3 foot, 4 foot. That's not happening. It's
Well, I mean, there could be, I don't know how much we dug down 3 foot and there's definitely 3 foot of clay underneath there right now. Possibly more, but once we got that deep, there wasn't any sense of going to, you know, getting it down to bedrock to see what we actually had, but.
So are you saying that we're not going to have to haul in any clay? We can just use the clay that's existing?
Yes, so $50,000 for this change order is our worst case scenario. If not
And that
bringing back in
includes-
any clay, we'll be subtracting that line item off the top of the project cost.
And with all this extra sediment, they would get rid of all of that. It wouldn't be, well, we got it all here. Now the city's going to be responsible for removing it. I mean, that would
It's actually,
turnkey.
it's almost gone.
That's what I mean. It'd be a turnkey deal.
Yep.
Okay.
I see it going by my house. I have a question, and when we was doing streets, we had a manhole, I believe it was, that was bid at such a figure, and we had a change order, which was almost what the original bid was. And I thought at that time, we put in one, and I don't know how we could do it here, but once that bid order come close to the original bid, it had to be rebid.
I'm not sure about that because so actually that would be up to council because this is under the Iowa threshold for public bid. So this was a solicitation from the city for bids.
Yeah, and also, it should be noted that the project wasn't bid as one complete payment. It was bid based upon what they thought enough of what the material was and a cost per cubic yard to remove that material.
Well, as I said, I don't know how that would work, but I know that, and I believe the driveway to the police station, once they got in there, they went another direction and they rebid that job. They done some and then they rebid it. So I don't know how you would do this since this job is already quite a bit done, but and I don't know why you would do it.
When we do at the back end of this, when we do the deduction, you know, it won't be up above the regular bid.
So our original bid on this was
$49,550.
and now we have an additional 50,000?
Yes. So it's actually, this change order is actually a quantity adjustment, as not necessarily a change order. So right now, so it'd be $99,550. So if we're not bringing in the 511 cubic yards of clay, we will be subtracting off $15,330. We're talking removing 4,000 cubic yards of material as opposed to 800 cubic yards of material now.
I am not a pond builder, obviously. So I'm sorry if it sounds bad. I'm just confused that the city pumped the water off and I don't know why we didn't bid the job after we could see what was there.
You couldn't see the extra layer of sediment or the rock until you dug into it 18 inches.
We don't do like a test or something like How bad's this gonna be? I'm just asking.
I guess that's something that we could have considered, yeah. But we bid the pond before we ever drained the pond.
I know, and that's why I'm wondering if we
Because, you
did it
know,
backwards.
we had to get council approval to do the project. Otherwise, we wouldn't have drained the pond. We would have just kept filling it.
In my opinion, if we would have known the price, we wouldn't have drained the pond.
Well, but you wouldn't have known the price if you wouldn't have drained the pond. Right.
Yeah.
Any price, we wouldn't have known.
So I mean, it's unforeseen situation is that there is a massive amount of junk that was tossed underneath the pond that they found after they dug into it. And now we're at a point in time where we decide we got to fix the pond.
I don't agree. You're saying they found.
I'm saying we found gravel in there that was purposely placed there at some point in time because it was continuously about a foot thick throughout the whole bottom of the pond. The consensus being that when they built this back sometime around 56 to early 60s, they put there's a really, really good clay bottom in there. They put really clean rock in because it's pretty and it shimmers. And it raised, and they put that in the bottom over the years. I did put a letter on an article on your, before you, that when they redid the pond in 2003, the pond had not been touched in 34 years.
1969.
Right. So they had that many years of sediment on top of that rock, which is why nobody in the 2000s knew that it was there.
Does the city have the equipment to do the digging?
No.
When we started doing the pond and they pretty much had it drained, they were still recovering fish out of it. I was working in the neighborhood and stopped by to see how it was progressing. I had another issue that I had to get a hold of Michael on. That's where he was. So it gave me a chance to go over and see what they were doing. At that time, it was silt. You could see the silt, the vegetation that had set on it. You could not see the clay liner. There was very little water left in it. The last fish were coming out. After they started removing the silt and started removing the clay, which there was 8 to 10 inches of clay in there, they found black sediment, which is silt. It's organic decayed material down in there. Because I am certified in the state of Iowa to build leachate ponds with the state of Iowa, this is my forte. They got a hold of me and asked me to come look at it. Before I got there, they dug through it and found more rock, found the rock. So when we was looking at it, picture about a foot of sediment, about a foot of clay, 2 to 3 feet of old sediment that got capped in there the last time we capped it, that should have been removed then. Then below that is all this rock. You cannot build a pond on top of that rock. Whoever did that was wrong. Maybe it wasn't engineered. Maybe the city just winged it. I have no idea. I don't know what happened. But this will not ever hold. When they come back and got the cost estimate, I got another phone call, asked me my recommendation. I said, you got 2. Preferably remove it all out, get down to the clay liner, recompact the top 8 inches that you're moving around, make sure it's sealed up, which is what the DNR of Iowa recommends for leachate pond. The other one would be to go in over the top of all of that and put a 2-foot minimum clay liner over top of that. Now your pond is only 4.5 feet deep, 5 feet. That's not an option. Those are what we're left with. These recommendations come from Barker Lamar, for anybody that wants to look up credentials. They're an engineering firm that takes care of 5 states as far as leachate ponds. In Iowa, they have outlawed clay liners and they're mandating everybody put in a poly or an EPDM or a membrane liner. But this has been the standard prior to them saying that you can't use just clay anymore. This product has to come out or we might as well fill it in. I don't like the cost. Brian has been diligent about finding out, him and Michael both, about being able to maneuver some clay around. So that's cutting the cost of what we was gonna have to haul in, partially offsetting all the crud that was there. But if we're gonna do it, we need to do it right now. It's kind of like the roof on the safety building.
I think if we knew we had this issue, we probably would. We would probably have continued to just fill it, plan, and let's do it right in a couple of years. We didn't know that. After reading this paper that you gave us, it does sound like basically they poured concrete on top of old concrete. You know, to make an analogy, and anybody knows construction, you can't do that. It does sound like when they redid it, how many years ago, they didn't really dig out the bottom. They just got down deep enough, that's close enough, let's just put in some new stuff. And they really didn't get to the bottom in the first place. So that leaves us where we're at now. I'm not a fan of spending the money, but we can't leave it like it is. You know, we've already got it torn up. At this point, we don't really have an option. We're gonna have to do something. The only drawback is that's gonna, and we were discussing that beforehand, that's gonna probably make something else at Rand Park not be available or not be an option because we're gonna have to do something.
I have a
And
question.
I'm not a big fan, I mentioned earlier, I'm not a big fan in Band-Aids. So I would never vote to leave it the way it is or just fill it in and hope for the best. I'm always a guy, let's get it done right the first time. If you do it right the first time, it only hurts once. If you have to go back and fix it 3 years later because we kind of cheaped it out this time, then it hurts every time you have to fix it. And so that's my 2 cents on it, I guess, is we're way past the windmill at this point. We don't really have any option but to fix it. We have to figure out how we're gonna justifiably do that.
So I have a quick question as to when we were originally talking about this, they said in 2003 was the last time we did any maintenance on the pond. And so that was 20 years ago, but we had been saying that most likely we'd have to do maintenance every 10 to 15 years. If we do this right this time, do you foresee that it extending the time period between having to do any more maintenance on the pond in the future?
Yes, I think it will definitely extend the life of the pond.
How much money, Cole, is in the park improvement reserve account right now?
$412,000.
Yes.
412,000.
Correct.
What do we typically use the park improvement reserves for on an annual basis?
Well, typically what happens is anytime somebody donates money for a tree or a bench or a certain project, it goes into that fund. Over the years, the money has grown because the expenditures would come out of the general fund. So we have now made an effort to make sure that money is getting transferred over to the general fund for any projects. And we have also created line items in that fund for expenditures so that we're not running into this problem in the future.
When was the last time we used this account?
The last time, I can't tell you the last time we transferred money over except for money for the splash pad got deposited in there. And again, that was coming out of the general fund, and I made sure that those funds got transferred to the general fund to cover the cost.
So it's not like we're using this account every year.
No,
This is also not street money.
correct. It is
People who
money
want-
for, it's supposed to be for park improvements because that's what the donations were for.
Cannot pave the streets.
So it's come from donations, and by using that money to get the pond completed, it doesn't impact anything else that we have talked about doing.
No, because these are past donations. And again, the way we've got it set up now is we have an income line item in Fund 002, and we have an expenditure item in Fund 002 now, so that when, so if somebody donates for a tree or a bench or something, it's into that fund and out of that fund and not getting taken out of the general fund.
Is any of that money currently earmarked for the Riverfront Trail?
No.
Thank you.
So we can potentially, if we spend this money, we can just move some right back into the account later.
We certainly could. If we want to, are you saying to transfer it back over to from the general fund back into
Instead
there?
of letting it dwindle, make sure that we replace the money.
Yes, certainly you could.
Okay.
I've had people ask me, so I'm not asking this question. But what would it cost us if we just filled it in with dirt and seeded it over?
Oh, probably about the same.
Okay.
Actually, it would probably cost more. Because you already had a hole that was,
Yeah.
18,000 square feet and then 4.5 feet deep.
And I'm not trying to sell dirt, but Great River has all
And
kinds
if, I don't know,
of clay up there. And
I know you've talked to the landfill about what their clay prices is, but black dirt prices are ridiculous.
yeah. Yeah. Like I'm saying, I'm not asking it.
I mean, the last thing that I wanted on this was a change order because, up front, this looked like a pretty cut and dry project. You're removing the silt, removing 8 inches of a cap, putting the 8 inches back in, and you're filling the pond back up, but that's not what happened.
Is there a potential for any more change orders, or is this it?
I think that the change orders that might come are deductions in quantities for the clay.
Right.
And that's the other thing to point out is the $50,000 is an estimate based upon what he is looking at. And because we pay by the cubic yard that's taken out, it very well could be that the 50,000 is not met. It could be 40 or 45,000 in the end, because it is
So
the
that-
contract is being paid for by quantity.
That $50,000 is based upon 2,000 square yards of material being hauled out and then 1,000 square yards of material being basically reapplied into the pond.
And we can pay every bit of this out of that improvement fund and not impact our regular budget at all.
Correct.
Okay.
Okay, any more discussion?
I'd say that right now you've got a real severe problem, and time's definitely the essence for this contractor being inside of a hole, and it's gonna possibly rain out there any day. But could be of best interest for the city to invest in a engineer to come in and monitor the situation. Apparently, the last time it was done, nobody knew that there was multiple inches or feet of rock placed underneath 8 inches of clay. So, at this point in time, you really, as you do this much compaction, you need some compaction tests, you need elevations to know how much material you're putting back in there. But you definitely want to make sure that it's clay dirt, not silt or gravel. So just for the best entrance to the city, it'd be best to have an engineer come in and do some compaction tests and elevations on those.
As far as the testing, we do have scope to do percolation tests, which is similar to compaction, but a percolation test, basically you take a piece of PVC, 6, 8 inch, you pick 3 or 4 spots around the pond, you push that down into there, you fill those up with water, and then you monitor it. So, if you're looking, if that liner's not holding, that water's gonna go down. If your liner's holding, it's gonna stay there, and you monitor that for a course of 24, 48, 72 hours, whatever the.
If you put a foot of water on top of that.
Well, normally these are, right, normally when we do perk tests there, and this is coming from my background in the engineering field, the perk tests are done with a piece of pipe that are like 6 feet tall. Because you want to get it down through the first, at least through the first couple, 3 inches of that clay to know if it's gonna hold. I mean, and that would be up to the council. If you want to hire an engineer, that's an additional cost to come out and.
Well, and what I understand about percolation tests, which when I ever did them, the amount of water you put in, there's an algorithm. This equates to 20 feet of water or 10 feet of water and,
Depending
know,
on how big
right.
the pipe
If
is.
your time frame, they tell you, you dig a 2-foot hole, you put in 2 foot of water, and then they give you time frames. If it, depending on how long it takes to empty or drop down, that's equated to, okay, if you had 10 feet of water and 2,000 yards or whatever. And so it's a pretty accurate test.
Then you're allowed so many millimeters of, I guess, for that to go to, right.
There's obviously going to be some seepage on the side of it, unless, like you said, you put in an actual PVC pipe, then it's definite straight down. But it's over the years, it's been a really proven and a really accurate test. We used to, when I did, I worked with a plumber in Illinois, and we had to do that for like the leach fields and the lateral lines and such. We had to go out and do all of that. And there again, you got EPA and DNR and all that involved, and they're pretty particular on their tests, and so that's why they chose those.
Okay, if there's not any more discussion, or if we're not repeating what we've done, I think we've been here a while. We have a motion and a second. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed?
Nay.
Okay, item number 21, motion to approve release and settlement agreement.
So moved.
Second.
ICAP, through our attorney, has reached a settlement with Derek Westwater regarding a civil suit against the city and Captain Church. The settlement is $28,000. The city is responsible for a $3,000 deductible, with ICAP paying the remainder.
Any more discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Item number 22, do we have any reports from boards or commissions?
We have nominations, but none to be voted on tonight.
Item number 23, council liaison reports.
I have the Oakland Cemetery Initiative and the Historic Preservation Committee is doing a craft and vendor show on April 22nd from 1 to 3. The American Legion is hosting a trivia night for a Boy Scout troop on April 14th. And the Keokuk Little League is offering scholarships to kids in need until this Sunday. You would just want to contact them on their Facebook page for this season.
Item number 24, staff reports.
I've got a couple. Michael and I met with Klingner Engineering out at our north landfill to go over the repair work that needs to be completed based on their last inspection. All the work was determined that we can take care of all that in-house. There was just some settling issues where there's some low spots out there. There's a little bit of leachate seepage we need to take care of, and then one of our intakes has a big washout. So we'll be able to do that all in-house. Riverfront Trail, we're still waiting on the DOT approval. I attended the Public Works Association's Iowa Spring Conference last week. It was a good experience. Learned quite a bit, earned a certificate in community and customer service through Public Works from Iowa State for my 3 days of sitting through classes. We did hire a part-time maintenance custodial person through task force for the Southeast Iowa Development Center. He started last Tuesday. The reason being for this is there really has been there's no upkeep done on the inside of that building as far as vacuuming, cobweb catching, just overall being there to monitor bathrooms. And he's also going to take care of the mowing, the weed eating, leaf blowing, picking up the trash around there. That saves a lot from our parks department having to go over there and do that. His fee will be covered by our half of the rent that is getting bumped up to freeze dried. Another note on that, we did have a couple tours with some potential leasees there. I would say they're fairly promising, which that's good news. Industry Park manhole location, that's where we dump our leachate from the north landfill. Michael and his guys installed a locking mechanism on there to prevent any kind of other pumper truck or anything coming to hook onto that, dumping into our system. Had a park board meeting on Tuesday. We discussed some rocket slide maintenance over at Triangle Park. We had one of our citizens offered to donate sandblasting and repainting all the fiberglass on the slide, which it hasn't been done since it was originally refurbished. So here this fall, when we close the park, our Parks Department's gonna disassemble and take the fiberglass down. We are gonna take this out, and then he'll have that all winter and get that sandblasted and repainted for us. Other than that, I think that's about it.
Brian, I have a quick question on, summer's coming up, pool's gonna open. Do we need any spot repairs on the
swimming pool?
On the swimming pool?
The only swimming pool repair that I know of right now is, we had 2 valves that needed fixed. 3 valves that needed fixed. I believe we're still waiting on a delivery, right? They had a pretty long lead time on them, so, but they should be here and installed before we get her open. I think there was a ladder that needed fixed, but we took in a little bit of concrete, but we've already taken care of that.
Through our last testing process, we were happy to be able to offer 2 unconditional offers to one to Philip Dunlap and one to Mason Chow. Those have been accepted. There'll be more on that the next council meeting. We have also promoted Matt Murphy to the rank of sergeant from patrolman.
One other thing on the rocket slide, it's our donations from Midwest Automotive, since he's sitting over there right now. Thought I should probably mention that.
Thank you.
All right, I just have 2 things, an update on the hospital. We did have a video conference today at noon. Most of it was giving kind of a background on Insight, or Insight gave us a background, and which was good because we had people on the conference call that had not had a chance to really talk to Insight about some things. So we gave an opportunity there, but they continue to move forward. They do have possession of the building. They are working with the state to hopefully secure some additional funding up front so that they can proceed faster with what they need to do in order to get more than just an ER up and running. They want to be able to start providing outpatient services, and so they need some. They would like to get some money up front from the state and hopefully be able to move a little quicker. They still have a target of trying to have the ER up and running before the end of this calendar year. But some things are still in a fluid, but they do have a commitment to Keokuk and continue to move forward. Department head meetings for this month are April 5th was the police department, April 12th is the fire department, April 19th is wastewater treatment, and April 16th, instead of the street department, it's the airport, and all meetings are 9 o'clock at the department's facility.
Cole, I did have a couple of things I should mention. I did meet with the engineer today at 629 Main Street, just for them to review the building to see if a stairwell could go into the interior of the building. They did a couple, they went in, measured, cut a small hole into, I believe it was the 2nd floor. So they'll be sending that report to us sometime in the next couple weeks. And I did get 6 building permits this week on vacant properties and 1 demo. So we're plugging along on those. We're getting some action, so I'm happy about that.
Okay, anybody else? Item number 25, new business.
a stop sign at 21st and Des Moines. I told them that I would put it out here and then we could discuss it. I know there's a lot of kids there. It's close to the park. It is one of our rougher streets in condition wise, and people do go through there pretty fast. It's an uncontrolled intersection. We're just hoping for a stop sign one way.
A one-way stop sign?
I mean, not a four-way, just a two-way stop.
Two-way stop?
Mhm.
Okay.
Okay. With that being said, item number 26 is a motion to adjourn. And before we go, I'd like to wish everybody a blessed Easter.
Don't move.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
5 minutes, guys.
I don't have it either. That's what I was just looking at. At the end.
Does she want me to help her out?
Page 200. Page 200, I think it's 213 pages. Oh,
There's a
okay.
bunch of them.
Well, on my phone, it's probably even more pages.
What day did you receive the email about the insight? I never received an email about anything to do with the hospital tour.
Tour?
When they came to visit, I never received any information about that prior. And I was just curious when the email was sent out because I'm like, everyone's like, well, I got an email. And I was like, I can get one. So,
Yes, I did. Did you?
That's killer.
I don't.
Do not like that, not being able to work.
I have been so busy. I actually try to at least see the agenda before I walk. I've worked more overtime since this year. Since worked in the last 5 years. Oh, I gotta get moved.
I'm bringing something to drink next.
Am I on the email?
Well, how's your brother doing?
I think he's halfway retired.
No, it's okay. I knew I wasn't an idiot. I knew I wasn't crazy. I don't do the email. It's like,
Like yours, there was these, and I don't know who some of those people are.
well, Dan Mart. Yeah. Yeah, he didn't invite the whole thing. He didn't invite the whole council.
Well, I know at one of the meetings, he asked presenters did, and I completely told him, so maybe he someone responded. Other than that, I have no idea.
Oh,
So,
no.
no, I have
Me
no
too.
idea.
It's just one of those things where I was like very slighted when I was having people tell me they're like, oh, you didn't get invited. And I was like, no.
Oh, but sometimes I forget. I all this.
I'm sorry, I didn't know.
No, it's like,
That's what I, because that's what I was thinking. Let's get out of here.
Okay, guys, let's get going again so we can go home, get home before midnight here. I'm dying of thirst.
Oh, you want to?
What do you need? Are we ready? Okay, we're going to open the workshop City Council workshop at April 6, 2023. Item number 1 on the workshop is maternity, paternity leave policy.
Currently, city policy on maternity and paternity leave is only covered under FMLA with no language to address modified duty assignments when the employee can no longer perform their duties due to pregnancy. The proposed language for maternity would provide for modified duty assignments when available for the employee. It does not guarantee the assignment will be within their department, that the work schedule will be the same, and that the work hours will be the same. Under FMLA, maternity and paternity leave is granted for up to 12 weeks unpaid. Employees may use sick, personal, or vacation time during that leave. The proposed policy adds 2 weeks of paid maternity and paternity leave with the 2 weeks counting towards FMLA's 12 weeks. Staff is requesting that the council review and recommend action. So we do have to have a policy in place quickly. We do have an employee that is pregnant and at some point will not be able to fully complete their current duties. So this would give the option of being able to have a modified duty assignment. During discussions on the last proposed personnel policy, there was discussions about doing something extra for maternity and paternity. And so that's why there's a proposal for the 2 weeks paid, but counting towards the 12 weeks of FMLA.
What if their job does not have a light duty or a modified duty?
Well, that's why we say that they could possibly go to a different department. And if we can find light duty for them, we will do so. If there's not anything available, then they would have to start their maternity leave.
Okay.
And Cole, it's my understanding that this will allow for the individual departments to modify duties. So if we don't have a light duty policy within our department, this is going to allow us to apply a modified duty to that employee.
Okay, so we're willing to create a modified duty.
Essentially assign
if
modified
possible.
duties.
Yeah, if possible, right? So, we'll work the best we can. It's just that it can't be guaranteed because if we don't have something that they can do, then we can't.
That was why my question is sometimes it's not available.
Yeah.
I think it's a good idea.
Any more
Right.
discussion?
And right now, they don't have any, according to in their 12 weeks, in our policy, we don't have any paid leave for maternity?
They have to take
Only
care of PTO.
their
Only their vacation, but as far
only their
as-
accumulated sick leave and vacation and personal days.
Okay. So this would give them, it wouldn't give them more than the 12, but we just pay for 2 weeks.
No. It's just, it's 2 weeks of paid leave, but it counts towards the 12 weeks of FMLA.
I just want to confirm that we are providing 2 weeks of paid paternity and 2 weeks of paid maternity leave.
Correct.
Perfect.
Correct.
Just want to confirm.
Okay, anything else?
I'll have it on the next agenda.
All right, item number 2, proposed sewer ordinance.
Ed, would you like to run through it? Kind of go through it. You need a copy?
Yeah.
Well, good evening. This is a modification of 13.04, and it's redlined. Some areas we have, as we go through this, we've added new definitions in. Other areas, we've cleaned up the language to, as was asked about, well, why are we doing it this way when we should be doing it this way? What we've done is we've just clarified things in the city code on what's supposed to be done. Now, one of the things is, we've added language to where, okay, it's milligrams per liter. So when it says parts per million by volume, well, that's milligrams per liter. It's typical code. So just starting here on page 1. And as we get along, if there are things where you'd say, okay, we want to review this and rework with this, I'll just leave it to Cole to make the notations. That way, as this progresses along, we have one note keeper on everything. So, and again, this is in track changes. So anything in red underlined, that's a change that's been made. So the first page, well, we've said volume is milligrams, parts per million by volume, and milligrams per liter. And then we defined what chemical oxygen demand is, COD. Now, why are we going with COD as we move along here? First off, the laboratory down at the wastewater plant can do more of those per day. Instead of having a very large glass bottle, 333 milliliter bottle, a third of a liter, you do it in very small tubes. Instead of waiting 5 days for the answer, you get the answer within 2 hours. Other places, and I'll just bring up Fort Madison, we've gone to COD on the industries because we can bill them better. We can get the data right away. Plus, on top of it, one of the better things about COD is that if you have something in there that kills the bacteria and gives you a low BOD because it's inhibiting the analysis, COD is not inhibited by that. So we put COD in there. So there we go on page 1. Page 2. Now, what we did in there is we actually added in additional information of what is COD for normal sewage. We have it in there for BOD, and we added COD in there. So as we start using COD, we have to make sure we add definitions or explanations as we go through the sewer ordinance. So that's page 2. Page 3. We did a couple of things. We added in a definition for total nitrogen and a definition for total phosphorus. Your wastewater plant or water resource recovery facility is required to treat nutrients. And nutrients are total nitrogen, total phosphorus. That's defined by the state. So there are a couple of ways you can treat this. You can put a lot of money into your wastewater plant and put in chemical treatment and everything else, or you can control who's putting what down the drain, the industries. So source control is a much more cost-effective way of doing things. So we're starting to look at, as we do these permits, total nitrogen, total phosphorus, so we put it in the code. So it's just not out of the blue. And why is it in there? Again, it comes back to is your wastewater plant is required to treat total nutrients. And it's close to the treatment right now, isn't it? Right, Tom? Right, do a really good job. But those are going to tighten up, not right away, but it's always good to be able to control without spending money. And again, I'll use Fort Madison. They got snookered here a few years back, long before Casey was in there and such. But an engineering company convinced them to put in chemical treatment. They spent tens of thousands of dollars for chemical treatment, and they're not using it. It's just sitting there unused, but they spent city money. So we're doing nutrient reduction up there by source control also, so we don't have to do chemical treatment. Pinnacle Foods, which is the ConAgra, they're going to have to put in chemical treatment for their wastewater. They have their own wastewater plant for their production and such. They're having to put in chemical treatment. They're fighting that tooth and nail because it's going to be super expensive. And what you have left over, you have to haul off to the landfill. Okay, so that's why it's in there. That's page 3. Page 4, we just put in where it says efficient operation at all time, we put in continuously because that's what we do. We run things continuously. So it's a little clarification. Clarification of language makes it sound better. Page 5, no changes. Page 6, no changes. Page 7, it says contributes wastewater or sewage to the publicly owned treatment works. And we thought, well, do we need to make it water resource recovery facility? Well, POTW is the federal definition. So you don't have to keep changing it as you change the name from water pollution control plant to water resources recovery facility. Just, it's all wordsmithing there. But we do make sure we say, or COD concentration in excess of 705 milligrams per liter. And so what we did is we just basically made sure that we had classification of users clearly defined, not only by BOD, but by COD. And how did we get that number? Well, there is a conversion factor in engineering books that say convert from BOD to COD, here's your conversion factor. That's what we did. We just used that. So then now let's get to the meat on page 8. Page 8, we're looking at what do you charge class 1 users? So class 1 rates. So those are the ones that contribute enough industrial wastewater. They're not the pizza joint. They're not the hamburger palace. They're not the local tavern. These are the industries that they use enough water that they become class 1 users. And how do you bill them? And what we did is we looked at the rates. Now the rates have not changed for a long while. And that's revenue that you should have been looking at, but now you're going to have to because the one major, piggy bank, be blunt, left town, okay? So now you have to look at everything else that comes in. Are you financing things correctly? Because the wastewater plant, the Water Resources Recovery Facility, is an enterprise zone. That means it must be funded by the rates that it collects. Just like the drinking water plant is an enterprise zone. It is funded by the rates it collects. So are you collecting enough in rates to pay for the systems that you have? And that's not just the wastewater plant or water resources recovery facility. It's your sewer pipes and it's your lift stations. So it's your underground streets, basically, and the treatment facility. So what we did here, and this is working with Cole and working with Tom, we said, here is the unit rate and the rate increases. And Cole, if you want to explain those then.
The unit increases there?
Yeah, there's just the rate increases, why are we doing, I think the thing is we haven't done anything for a long while.
Right.
So 10% sounds high, but what it boils down to is if you haven't raised things for years, 10% is not much of what you're raising.
So most communities, whether they have a pretreatment program or do not have a pretreatment program, will build in a standard annual increase. When I talked with Dr. Askew about how we compare to others, including communities close to us, I was told that our rates are at least 10% less or?
Well, what you were charging compared to, and we'll just take Fort Madison, was 1/4 of what they charge. And they have a table just like this in their city code, in which every year there is a rate increase already calculated out. And the whole idea is prices go up, plus they have the same problem you guys have. They have CSOs, they have no money. And so they're trying to raise, and they're not doing 10%. They're doing 15% and greater. to raise the money to pay for their own infrastructure, their sewer pipes and their sewage treatment plant. That's why we put the table in here. Instead of going through a council, well, we're going to make this big rate increase and we wait 5 years, we're going to do it again, wait 5 years. Let's just put it in the city code. It's automatic. It can be calculated. The industries can look to that. And if they're doing any type of source reduction inside their factory, like basically conserving water or not dumping as much stuff down the drain, they can actually plot out, calculate out what their next year's billing cycle will be. So we put it in there as that. It's got it set up where if we charge by BOD per pound or if we charge by COD per pound, you don't charge for both. We either BOD or COD. And if you notice when we did those permits, the permits were built on COD. Okay. Total suspended solids, that's a poundage. You notice we also have total nitrogen and total phosphorus because you're having to do nutrient reduction, either how you manage the plant or some of this also can be effective pretreatment where you're going out and you're having the industries test themselves so they know they're controlling what they're discharging. That is a revenue that you should be collecting. This is automatically starting this year in Fort Madison's, in their city code. It's already in there. It is calculated and it starts July 1 in Fort Madison. So they have built that up so that they're charging for what it takes to run their system. And I will tell you what Dave, it was Dave Varley, right, did before he left there is he got a 3-year and maybe a 10-year extension on their compliance for their CSOs based on him saying we can't afford to repair them. We can't afford to do this. They said, okay, we can give you a few years and then come back with the data to show that you're collecting the money. So down the road, you can fix things and we'll give you the extension. So that's what has happened there. So by doing this, we're saying we're collecting the money needed for, and we're not going out and just trying to stick it to everybody, but this is 10% of a small number is still a small number. So that's the whole idea. That's the whole concept. Now, the dollar amounts and everything, I'll leave that up to the council and such. That's kind of yours and Cole's bailiwick. This is just why it's there. So the dollar amounts again, I'll leave that up to
And
you.
it should be noted that that within the ordinance, it says that the charges and rates are to be reviewed every 2 years to ensure that the system is generating adequate revenues. So what it is in 2 years, we can take a look at this, and if 10% a year is more than enough, we can always adjust it down. Or if it's not enough, we can always adjust it back, adjust it up.
So it's not totally automatic. It just means every other year, the council does the deep review and decides, is that acceptable to continue on or not? But we did put it in there, starting with what you're charging already. So that is, July 2023. If you go up 10%, we're adding 10% onto that July 2024 and July 2025. So we're just making that at the beginning of the next fiscal year. Here's where it's going up.
I have a question for Tom and Cole probably. I know when I had went down there, you had said ADM was like 90% of the work at the time. Does it change how much money is needed to run WPC without them?
Looking at the budget, I think it was reduced $150,000 maybe from last year to last fiscal year to this upcoming fiscal year. Is that right? I don't know the exact.
Do we expect that trend to continue to go down?
Probably not, because the same processes that we needed to run while they were here, we still need to run them. We are saving a lot of money on polymer because we needed to treat what came down from them with polymer. So that's our big savings right there. But it's still a big plant that still needs a lot of attention, a lot of revenue to run.
So we just renegotiated the contract for the removal of the pressed materials, yes?
Mhm.
So how much did that go down though, too? Because if we don't have the ADM, then I would assume that goes down significantly.
Yeah, do you have Chris' contract?
On
handy?
the sludge?
Yeah,
Sludge
handling.
hauling? We went from approximately,
I think it was $218,000
yeah,
a year.
280,000 down to 78,000 approximately.
Mhm. And right now, we're using our grit truck to haul sludge out, and it's about, I thought it was about half the size, but it's not that big. And where we would make one trip out with sludge with LCL Farms' truck, we're having to make 4 trips out, 3 to 4 trips with ours. And beans, we're still cleaning out the digester. They've been running into some problems there. We didn't know what we we're going to encounter in the first place. It's taken them longer than they planned, and they've had to overcome some obstacles, but they're still cleaning that, and that's being combined with what we're producing, on an ongoing basis. And we've had to contact Chris again and have him take out some more loads, his guys take out some more loads. So hopefully, when these digesters are done getting cleaned out, it's going to go down to what our normal loading would be, and it'll be substantially lower than when ADM was here.
So I'm curious okay, so we're an enterprise zone, is that what you said?
We're an enterprise zone, yes.
So an enterprise zone, so then we have to operate within.
And make money.
Well, we have to operate to be able to cover our expenses. So as its own unit, as a utility.
Mhm.
Okay, so then what do we need to collect annually from our organizations and individuals on the sewer system? What's that increase that's gonna have to look like?
Okay, so based upon, during the budget process, the residential rates were a 10% increase on the base and a 10% increase on the usage. And those are farther down in this here. What it did was, by doing that and plus the reductions in expenditures, we actually have a positive balance projected for next year. Yeah.
Thank you.
Okay. Now, going on to, no more questions, I'll go on to the next page. Okay, page 9. Now we have Class 1 surcharge. One of the things that I talked to Cole about, and this is a misconception by Iowa DNR. They assume the surcharge is a regulatory fine. And the surcharge is not a fine. It's paying for the treatment of what you sent to us. The surcharge does not exempt you from fines, but it's like, okay, you sent us more stuff. We had to take more of our time, more of our polymer, more of our electricity to treat it. It's above what we said you could send us. Now you have to pay a penalty. No different from the electrical company that has different rates. If, this is the time of the day, this is the rate. If you go and do it at where we have the high rate charges, we're going to charge you for it. Well, this is in the same concept of the surcharge. So what we did was we just basically added to the surcharge, it's BOD or COD, TSS, total nitrogen, and total phosphorus, because those are going to be in the permit. TSS, total nitrogen, total phosphorus. So it's not just BOD. It's anything you send down to the wastewater plant above what you've been permitted to do, or that we said you could send. You're going to get billed for the extra, and there is a rate for that. And that's what we added in there. We added in the rates of that flow, excess flow, BOD or COD, because those are measuring organic material, total suspended solids. It used to say suspended solids. We went with TSS. What we tried to do is make sure that the words were the same. Some parts it said TSS, some parts it said SS. We just made them all the same. It's all total suspended solids. Okay? Then total nitrogen and total phosphorus. So we put that in there. So if there's a surcharge, the city can collect the revenue that it's due. That's why it's in there. Okay. Then we have the class 2 rates.
And I highlighted the class 2 rates would be, like I said, a 10% increase. So it's a $6.69 per unit per month on usage over the minimum rate allowance based upon actual or estimated monthly water meter readings. The minimum monthly rate for class 2 users shall be $30.38 based upon 2,000 gallons. For this section, units shall be considered to be 750 gallons of water, which is 1 cubic foot or 100 cubic foot. I believe 100 cubic foot. Yeah, because we still charge by, the waterworks still charges by cubic foot.
Yeah. Yeah, so they have a reading, they don't do gallons, they're slowly moving over to gallons at the drinking water plant.
Right.
Now you'll notice the class 2 rates don't have that automatic increase. That wasn't put in the class 2 rates because that's the homeowner. It's a one-time charge, and that's the Pizza Hut, and that's the Burger King. That's everybody that's not a class 1. So the class 2s, there's that small increase, but there's not like it's set out every year it goes up. That's something the council and Cole and Tom will have to decide what they'd like to do for the residential, the class 2 users. Okay. Geez, the page 11, nothing. Page 12, nothing.
You're way down there now.
Page 13, nothing. Page 14. Okay, more definitions. We defined COD again. Why did we do that? Because it's used twice in the city code. So we just cleaned up the definition. That's on page 14. Okay, so page 15, nothing. Boy, this is pretty good. Page 16, nothing. Page 17, nothing. Hey, page 18, we put a definition again for total nitrogen. Now, people say, what is total nitrogen? It is ammonia. There is the organic nitrogen called Keldol nitrogen. It's nitrates and nitrites. There are those 4 nitrogen compounds that make up total nitrogen, as defined by EPA. Well, wait a minute, not EPA. It's defined by the state of Iowa. Just to let you know, EPA has not defined what total nitrogen is, but they're regulating on it. So we just say, here's total nitrogen. Then page 19, we have total phosphorus. And then with the abbreviation, we have TN stands for total nitrogen. TP stands for total phosphorus. We just added that in there, just in case you see it. Now, the next one. Go down to page 20. This is interesting. Number 3 is based on state code. And it hadn't been clarified completely. And what we did is we went to the state code and we said, here's what's in the state code. If you send something down the sewer pipe and it causes the wastewater at the wastewater plant to go below 6 or above 9, it's a violation of state code. Now, what that says is we may still set the limits on what they can discharge to the sewer, but if they discharge something bad enough that it makes its way all the way down to the wastewater plant and raises or lowers that pH, there's a problem. Now, the other thing is hauled waste. If we have somebody hauling waste in, it goes to the headworks of the wastewater plant. If they dump it in there and that hits the wastewater plant, it causes that, that's still a violation of city code. So we just clarified the city code there to meet what the state code says. Feds never have anything on it. They just say less than 5. That's from the state code, the 6 to 9. Okay. Page 21, you notice we added in COD, total nitrogen, total phosphorus, but like we had before in total suspended solids. Clarification. Page 22, we have the thing about BOD and COD and total suspended solids, oil and grease, okay? And it talks about giving credits. We don't do credits here, but it was required to be put in the state or the city code when we updated this in 2019 to meet federal requirements. You have to talk about giving credits. That's a big thing, give credits. Nobody I know of gives credits. Credits means if you take it out here, your other section over here can pollute more. So if you have 2 or 3 plants in the same town and one's taking a whole bunch out, the other one can have some of that. That's the credits. Well, we don't have that. You don't have multiple factories in this town, except Keokuk Steel Castings. They have 2 buildings, but they all discharge. They're going to be measured at one sewer point where both of them discharge to. And that's something that Tom Wills worked out with them. Okay. And Mike. Yes. Raise your hand, Mike. You helped too. Okay. Page 24. Well, what do you know? We changed it to the Keokuk Water Resources Recovery Facility instead of Water Pollution Control Plant. Yes. Page 21. All right. Okay, let me go back to there. Let's see. 21. Oh, now that's interesting. You guys had it at 50 and 5. That was in your original state code, or this city code. You had it at 50 and 5. Upon talking with Tom and Dave Glasscock down there, if we put 50 and 5 in the industry's permit, they would violate consistently the SGT HEM. Now, what is hexane extractable material? They used to call oil and grease. And they changed the name, hexane extractable material. Well, hexane extractable material is made up of petroleum products and lard, animal-based, vegetable-based fats. And when you run it through silica gel, that's the SGT, it takes out all the fats, and what you're left with is the petroleum products. Well, it was decided that with the analytical data that Dave Glasscock had, most of the industries could easily meet 30 milligrams per liter SGT HEM. There was 5. Well, let's change the city code. You're allowed to. This is something that is based on city by city requirements. There are some federal codes out there for like petroleum refineries and things that have lists. But if you discharge to the city sets the limits. So we thought, okay, let's just change that to make it where it's enforceable. And the 50 didn't get changed at all. It was 50, it was always 50. But the 5 got moved up to 30. That's why it got changed. And so the industries can meet that. And if they don't meet it, then what type of stuff are you dumping down the drain? Now, this city has not had the need to do what's called a fats, oils, and grease program. Other cities, because they have a lot of lift stations that get plugged with animal fats, basically from the Mexican restaurants, only they're not a restaurant, they're a factory that makes tortillas or other Mexican food, or there's one that fries up all the sausage and pepperoni that Casey uses, Casey's Pizza, that's pre-cooked. All that fat goes down the drain. Yeah, they have to worry about fats, oils, and greases. But that's just an aside there. Okay, so we were on page 24. Now, page 24 and page 25, we have a couple of things. First off, there is, for total suspended solids, if you look on page 25, that table, that is the design load that has been in place for your wastewater plant since 2015. And it was dug out of the records for me here last year by one of my guys at DNR, Ben Hucka, the pretreatment coordinator for the whole state. We had the incorrect total solids, so we changed that to the correct total solids. Everything else on the uniform concentration limits, we did not change. That will have to be changed in the future. The Iowa DNR has required the city to recalculate its local limits. You are applying for a new plant permit, a Water Resource Recovery Facility NPDES permit. It is a requirement, it's recalculated. Because we've had two changes, the design load has been changed, cut in half from what it was originally. And the fact that ADM has left town, the major industry has left town, you have to recalculate the local limits, let alone you have to do it every 5 years. So that uniform concentration table will not change, but it will change in the future, just to let you know. Local limits have to be reviewed by the state. They have to have a public comment period. And then it comes back to the city once it's approved by the state to incorporate in their city code. All right. Just to let you know, Fort Madison is going through that right now. A lot of turmoil on that up there. 26, nothing. 27, nothing. Well, we deleted something there. Yes, city schedules of charges and fees. Okay. What got deleted? What is that? Well, that was one set of fees set up for charging ADM, not any other industry in town. We have recalculated the fees. There are 3 levels of pretreatment fees, and the fees apply only to issuing of the permit, doing the paperwork, looking at your reports, and doing your annual inspection. So there is the level 1 fee, which is $250. If you figure at $50 an hour, that's 5 hours of city staff time. That includes writing the permits, rewriting the permits, going and doing their annual inspection, and looking at their data that they send to you. There is a mid-level fee. I believe that's what, $500? Level 2?
Yes.
Yep, the level 2 fee. And there's a level 3 fee of $750. We do not have any industry, I believe, in this town right now that would be a level 3. Most of them, they're big enough, would be level 2s, and there are a lot that will be level 1s. So those fees were put together in a fee table along with laboratory fees that was developed by the WRF and sent out to the industries. And those fees are based on what it would cost to have it done some other place, or what is the standard industrial cost to go out and set up a sampler, what is the depreciation on the city vehicle, what's the hourly rate for someone to get in and drive out, put up the sampler, bring it out back, that type of thing. What's the fees for doing the laboratory analysis? What are the fees for pre-treatment? You know, what's your permit fee? And that was sent out when, Tom, to the industry? Yeah, so plenty of time for them. And the laboratory fees are based on either what it costs the lab down there to do the work, and if we needed to get a new fee, we'd say, okay, what does the state hygienics lab charge? Because we went out and looked at what other municipalities charge, but we said, okay, City of Ames and the City of Burlington on their laboratories fees sheet, they say flat out, we charge the same thing as the state hygienics lab. So we said, okay, that is the standard practice out there of a city that's relatively the same size as Keokuk, 2 different ones. Okay, so that is what got deleted there, schedule of charges. Then, let's see. All right, so we go to page 29, nothing. There's nothing on page 28. 29, there's nothing. 30, we deleted out, when is a permit going to be issued to you? It's not the first day of November, because we're working on some right now. We said, just take it out of there and let the pretreatment coordinator and the city decide when the permits get issued. Okay? We also took out, the user shall be informed of any proposed changes in this permit at least 30 days prior to the effective date of change. We took that out for one reason. If an industry is impacting the wastewater plant to the point it is violating its NPDES permit, you are required in your NPDES permit to address it immediately. It's actually in the back part of the permit. We did not want something contradicting what the federal and the state requirements are on the city. That's why we took that out. Now, we've given them 30 days. It's not like we're just going to dump it on them, but we all can think of the scenario. They're causing the plant to continually violate. They're not stopping. You send them notice of violation. They're not stopping. Then you change their permit. And you shouldn't give them 30 days more to discharge if it's that significant. So we took that out of there because we got beat over the head by that. So let's just take it out because we had a case where we needed to follow our federal permit and they were bringing up the city code. That's why that got removed. Okay, page 31, page 32, page 33, page 34, nothing. Page 35, nothing.
36.
Page 36. We changed just to not exactly, because some of these things like cyanide, totophenols, and sulfides, the samples may be composited. That's confusing. They're supposed to be grab samples. You can take multiple grab samples and say, I'm going to do a flow composite on them. There's ways of getting around that, but just putting that in there like that, that's unclear. Let's take that out. And we also took out volatile organics and oil and grease. The samples may be composited in the laboratory. It clearly states in EPA methods you cannot composite volatile samples, nor can you composite oil and grease. It's in the methods themselves. So we took that out of there because that was conflicting with what's the federal. So boring as all this is, I mean, I don't want to put people to sleep, but those are the little things we took out there. Page 37, page 38, no changes. Page 39. Okay, enforcement. All enforcement under the City of Keokuk pretreatment program and this ordinance will follow the requirements listed in the current approved IDNR EPA City of Keokuk Industrial Pretreatment Enforcement Response Plan. So there's no confusion. You go to the enforcement response plan. If you want to change how you're doing something, change the enforcement response plan, submit it to DNR, Ben Hucka, and say, can we do this, Ben? That's it. That's all you have to do. But the enforcement response plan cannot have conflicts in the city code. We put that language in there to say, we're going to follow what we said we're going to do. Now, enforcement response plans get reviewed on a regular basis and things get changed. There are some things we would like to do in the next enforcement response plan where we clearly identify the hierarchy of how things are handled. So an NOV, SNC, NOV, plant superintendent automatically. Administrative order, we want 1 degree of separation to where the AO is formed. So who's the next one up? That's Cole, the city administrator. We want that clearly stated in the flow. So it goes from here to here. Then any further action, city administrator and the city attorney. So the next step up, fines, city administrator, that. Now, someone says, well, what about if there's a show cause hearing? Because we have a thing in that to come and do a show cause hearing. Well, what happens is the city administrator is the arbitrator and the plant superintendent is the prosecutor presenting the city's case. So you have a clear separation of who makes what decision. Okay, so what do? Show cause hearings. When it gets to show cause hearings, we took all of that out of there about the city council being involved in a show cause hearing. You know, actually running a show cause hearing. That's the specific type. You have to show the causes. We bring them in, we say, here's what we're saying, why we're going to maybe terminate your service or this or that. And you have to show the reasons why it doesn't apply to you. That is something that is clearly stated in your enforcement response plan on who's responsible. It has nothing about the city council in there. Now, you can put it back in. But here's the thing. Direct liability then falls on you. You see, here's the thing, the way pretreatment is looked at by the regulatories. You've got the plant superintendent, pretreatment coordinator. You've got the city administrator. Those are your designated responsible people. Those are the ones that have the liability. But if the city council is involved directly in enforcement and implementation, the risk goes to them also. Now, the last city council I know that were brought up on charges were the city council of West Liberty, Iowa, because they have that big turkey plant in town. And the turkey plant was causing the wastewater plant to violate all over everything. And the city council got directly involved in that. And so they were cited in criminal prosecution. Now, they all backed down, they fixed everything, and everybody was happy and copacetic. But in came the feds, and they said, who's responsible? Who's directly responsible? And it was the city administrator. No, it wasn't. It was the city council. City administrator did not make those decisions. So we took that out and we said, just do the enforcement response plan. You want to change it? Change your enforcement response plan. But we're just going to make sure what we say in the enforcement response plan is what we do. So that's what got changed there. And then that's the last of it. So it's a long evening, isn't it? My golly, it's almost 8:30. I tried to make my voice very soft and melodious so I could put you to sleep. So anyway, so there we go. That's the information. Nicole?
Does council have any other questions or comments or any changes that they would like to recommend? Otherwise, we would take this and bring it for the first reading at the next meeting. So we're welcome for any comments, any questions. Yes, but the additional pages had no changes on them. And it was really the water ordinance.
Any questions?
Thank you, Dr. Askew.
Thank you.
Thanks, Ed. With that being said, meeting is adjourned. Let's go home.